Okay, let's unpack this. When you hear the World Bank, what comes to mind? For a lot of us, I think it's a name we know, maybe associated with massive loans or post-war rebuilding, something like that, or just this huge kind of opaque global financial thing. But what does it actually do today? And how has its mission really changed? Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're guided by this really insightful article, The New Role for the World Bank by Michael Clemens and Michael Kramer. And this piece, it really challenges some old ideas. It shows a pretty fascinating evolution in what the bank is about now. So our mission for you, listening in, is to get past maybe some outdated ideas. We want you to see the World Bank's current role, its big role, in fighting global poverty, and understand its actual costs, which are more complex than you might think, and the unique value it brings as this multilateral force. You'll see why it's arguably more crucial than ever. Let's get into it.
Right. So to get where the World Bank is now, we probably need a quick look back. Where did it start?
Our sources confirm its original job right after World War II was tackling what they called imperfect international capital markets. Basically, stepping in to help countries borrow when commercial markets just weren't available, acting as a lender of last resort, essentially.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here, what the authors really focus on it, is that original role. It's now kind of subsidiary. The bank still lends capital, sure, but its main goal has fundamentally shifted. It's explicit now. It's not just about fixing market failures anymore. The primary mission today, it's reducing extreme poverty worldwide. It's really shift from, let's say, financial mechanics to, well, direct human development. And this new focus, it's more strategic than just temporary cash flow help. Most of the bank's financial support now, especially through its arm IDA, that's the International Development Association, it comes as grants or these highly concessional loans. These go specifically to the lowest income countries. So the terms are incredibly generous, often zero interest, really long repayment periods. It's clearly not a profit thing. It's a deliberate long-term investment in the poorest nations.
That's a huge shift. So what does that mean for its actual impact then? The sources seem pretty clear. It's not just about handing out money. They argue the biggest impact comes from its ability to push for dramatic policy changes in developing countries. Can you give us a feel for what those changes look like? What kind of scale are we talking about?
Absolutely. Think of it less like just funding a project and more like shaping the whole environment for progress. So, for example, maybe an African country is struggling with food security. A dramatic policy change might be the World Bank working with the government to, say, dismantle inefficient state-run agricultural boards and replace them with market systems that actually empower local farmers, let them benefit directly. It's about fixing the underlying structures holding back growth. That leads to sustainable poverty reduction, economic growth, better equity. The money is often the leverage, you could say, but the policy advice, the blueprint, that's the real engine.
Okay, when we hear bank, we usually think profit, right?
Yeah.
Return on investment, dividends for shareholders. But with the World Bank, like you said, the financial side is way more nuanced. It's not like a commercial bank at all. So what are the actual costs of running this thing? And who's really paying? It can't all be self-funding, can it?
That's a really key distinction, and the authors lay it out well. The World Bank Group isn't just one thing. It's got several parts. You got the IBRD, the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. That's the sort of traditional lending arm for middle-income governments. Development loans. Then there's the IFC, the International Finance Corporation. That's their private sector arm. It invests directly in businesses in developing countries, trying to spark growth that way. And MUGA, the Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, which offers political risk insurance, helps encourage foreign investment. Those arms, they're largely self-sustaining. Some are profitable even. But the really critical one for poverty reduction is IDA, the International Development Association. Like we mentioned, IDA targets the poorest countries, and it's funded mainly by shareholder contributions. Donor countries chip in directly to its capital.
Right. And this is where you see the real financial commitment, the unique setup of the World Bank Group. The authors did this detailed analysis, calculating what they call the annual donor subsidy. And it's more than just the cash contributions, isn't it? They include this thing called opportunity cost. Can you break that down for us? Why is that so important?
It's crucial because it shows the real economic sacrifice donors are making. Opportunity costs here means the returns those shareholders, the donor countries, could have earned if they'd invested their capital elsewhere, in the market. Instead of putting it into the World Bank, it's an implicit cost, a benefit they gave up. You have to factor that in to get the full picture of the investment. It's not just money out, it's also the gain they didn't get by choosing development aid instead.
Okay, so when you add all that up, the direct contributions, those foregone returns, the running costs of trust funds and stuff,
Yeah.
what's the total? What's the scale of this annual donor subsidy?
Okay, so factoring all that in direct money, the opportunity cost, operational expenses for various activities, the estimate for the total annual donor subsidy to the World Bank Group's clients, it's somewhere in the range of 11 to $14.2 billion. That number really captures the true cost to donor countries. It represents a huge, deliberate investment in global development. Definitely not a profit-seeking operation, a massive commitment of resources for a global public good.
Wow, over $11 billion a year. That's staggering. And you might wonder, why would countries basically subsidize another organization like this? Why not just give aid directly, bilaterally? But the sources stress this huge figure is a deliberate choice by donors. It signals they see unique value in the World Bank's approach. Which brings us nicely to what many say is its biggest strength, its policy influence. Yeah, it's easy to get stuck on the billions of dollars, the financial side, but the sources are really clear. The bank's most effective role, often, is its policy role, acting as a catalyst, a guide for reform. It's about the expertise, the leverage, that long-term vision, sometimes more than just the cash itself.
Exactly. And one thing the authors highlight is how tangible this policy impact is across so many different sectors. Take agriculture, for instance. Back in the late 20th century, the bank worked with several African countries, helping them shift away from these often inefficient state-run agricultural boards towards more market-based systems. And this wasn't just theory. It directly helps loads of small farmers in places like Ghana and Kenya, gave them more control, better market access.
And it goes way beyond just agriculture, right? It shows the breadth of their work, like in health. The bank was pretty key in helping countries like Bolivia and Ethiopia refocus budgets towards primary health care, making basic medical services more available to more people, especially the underserved, than education. Their efforts played a part in a really big drop in kids out of school globally, from like 196 million down to 124 million between 2000 and 2015. That's huge. Millions of kids' lives changed. And social protection. They really championed things like conditional cash transfers. Mexico's Progresa was a pioneer. Families get money if kids go to school or get health checks. That model. It's been picked up in at least 26 other countries now, directly helping the poor help themselves.
Yeah, the sources even quote Gavin and Roderick from back in '95. They called the bank the single most important external source of ideas and advice to developing country policymakers.
Right.
That really underlines its soft power. It's not just financial clout. It's credibility, legitimacy, decades of research and experience. It's seen as this trusted partner that can bring global best practices, cutting-edge research, helping countries figure out their own solutions.
So for you listening, this means the World Bank's influence. It often goes way beyond the dollar signs on the loans. It uses its expertise, its network, that sort of neutral position to encourage these big, lasting policy shifts, changes that really improve lives and build sustainable development. It's about empowering countries to make better choices, not just telling them what to do. Okay, so given these huge costs, this massive subsidy we talked about, and this wide-ranging influence, why a multilateral organization? Why is the World Bank uniquely effective compared to, say, the U.S. or Germany just giving aid directly? What's the magic ingredient there?
Well, if you connect it to the bigger picture, a constant challenge in aid is just coordinating everything, getting donors on the same page, making sure governments actually do the reforms. Bilateral aid, one country to another, it can often come with pretty direct political strings attached. And sometimes those are less efficient. Or maybe the receiving country resists them. Sees it as interference, right? Causes friction, less effective results.
Right. And this is where the authors talk about that idea. Let's call it finding a win-win deal, a Pareto improving deal, they term it. It's not just jargon. It's about finding a way, using this multilateral approach, where things get better for both the donors and the recipients. Nobody loses out. It's creating a win-win through shared control, less political heat, genuine collaboration instead of, tense negotiations.
Exactly. The bank, because it's seen as neutral, multilateral, it massively reduces the sort of negotiation costs of making big policy changes. It acts as a convener, a neutral ground. It helps build a global consensus on what good development policy looks like. That means more buy-in, and crucially, makes reforms more likely to stick long-term. Because they feel like a collective effort based on expertise, not just one country's agenda. It changes that potentially tense bilateral dynamic into something more cooperative, a shared goal.
And what really stands out is how the sources point to the World Bank's track record. It seems pretty strong in actually improving GDP per capita growth, especially in really tough places. It shows how this coordinated, expert-driven approach, mostly free from that direct political baggage you mentioned, can get results maybe fragmented efforts just couldn't. It's a powerful case for collective action, isn't it?
It really is. Which does lead to an interesting question, doesn't it? In a world facing all these interconnected global problems, how could this unique multilateral advantage, its ability to build consensus, offer expert advice, drive policy reform, how could that be maybe optimized even further to tackle even bigger things beyond just traditional development?
So we've taken this deep dive into the new role for the World Bank, and it's clear, isn't it? This is a much more complex, dynamic institution than maybe we first thought. It's not just a bank lending money, it's a powerful force for global poverty reduction, backed by that significant annual donor subsidy, that true cost of $11 to $14 billion a year.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen its real strength isn't just the capital, though that's important. It's maybe even more about its ability to foster policy change, offer that deep expertise, and coordinate global efforts. Its multilateral nature seems key, making aid more effective, mutually beneficial, and sustainable, getting past the limits you sometimes see with direct country-to-country aid.
So what does this all mean for you listening? It means getting a much more nuanced picture of a really critical global player.
Yeah.
The World Bank isn't some dusty relic. It's dynamic, it's actively shaping the future, and it's demonstrably improving millions of lives in very real ways. It's a story of adaptation, really, and a deep commitment to tackling huge global challenges.
And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. We've seen the bank's proven ability to drive big policy changes, reduce poverty, using its unique multilateral structure and that soft power. So how might that model be adapted or even expanded? Could it tackle other huge global challenges that absolutely need coordinated international action? Things like, future pandemics or the accelerating impacts of climate change, or even managing global migration.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep making your own deep dives into the world around you.